Hey, hello guys, how are you doing? In today's lesson, we're going to be discussing and looking into JavaScript functions and methods. So, without any further ado, let's get started and see what these are actually about. Now, what are functions? Now, functions are a group of JavaScript statements that performs a specified task. The sole purpose of functions are to take some piece of code blocks and to make them perform a specific task, and to be able to reuse this piece of code as much as possible or whenever necessary. So functions, they take an input and then they give out an output. So they are made to do a particular thing. So they might take in a particular value and work with it and produce a particular output. And another thing is they must be defined within the scope of where you want to call them. That is one of the important things you must take note is if you're going to be making use of a particular function or method, you have to create them in the scope of where you will use them, and that is that whenever you want to use them to call on them, you must make sure that you are able to access them. Now, how to work with functions? Now, the way to work with function is basically simple and in a generalized concept, essentially the same way. Number one, you declare or define the function, and this is called function declaration or function definition, and this is in all programming language. In all programming languages, we have functions, and functions might be created in various formats, but essentially all functions are declared, they are defined. So this is when the functions are being created to specify this is what you have to do, and this is what the sole purpose of this function is from. And then after that, you call the function. So this is function calling or invoking the function. So whenever you call, you declare and define the function. If the function isn't invoked or called, it wouldn't essentially have any output. You wouldn't essentially have any effect. So let's continue. Now, when you're calling a JavaScript function, there are various things that you should put in mind. Number one, you might call a JavaScript function conventionally. Now, this occurs when you pass in the same argument, or you just call the function right directly in your code. So let's say you create a function to do a particular thing, maybe log something to the console, and then right there in your code you invoke your function directly. That is the conventional method. So, and then we have functions that take in a particular parameter or value. Now this parameter and value can vary depending on different cases, and the output is usually also unique. And then thirdly, we have functions that are called on a certain event. So you might call a particular function in response to a particular event that happens in your website, in your web application, let's say on your desktop application. So you might call a particular function based on that event to respond to it. And then now whenever you call use the conventional method, you should know that the result will always be the same, and for the parameter it's going to depend on the value passed, and for the event it's going to depend on the event. So let me go over that again. Now when you call a JavaScript function using the conventional method that is right there in your code, you actually call or invoke it. Now the result will essentially be the same. So let's say you're logging something to the console, it will always log the same thing to the console, that is the output will be the same. Now when you have a parameter or a value passed in, now depending on what the value or parameter is, it's going to actually change your output. So your output will be reliant on the parameter, would work with the parameter that has been passed into it. And then thirdly, when you're working with events, now it's going to depend, the output of your JavaScript function is going to depend solely and most likely entirely on the events that it is being called on. Alright, the first thing on our list is function declaration, and function declaration was pretty much the standard way of dealing with functions in JavaScript back in the day. So I've got my script, JavaScript file open up here, and also my console. So let me increase the size of that so we'll see that better. Alright, so how do we work with function declaration? It goes something like this. We use the keyword function and then followed by the function name. So let's say we want to define a function greetings, and then follow it by your brackets and then your curly braces, which is where your set of code actually goes to. So I can have something like console.log, and let's say hello world, and then let's save. Now I've saved it, but if you notice, we are not getting anything right here in the console because, like I explained earlier, after declaring the function you have to invoke or call the function. So right down here I'm going to come and say greetings, and then let's save that. Define multiple or declare, okay, let's say I call this instead right here, instead of hello world, so, and then right here we call it greetings. And then don't forget, whenever you call a function you make use of your brackets. Okay, so and then we can, after calling the function function greetings too, we can also call the greeting function again, and then I can just copy this so it works. And then if I should save that, we can see this is for the greeting function, then this for greetings two, then greeting, then greetings two. Okay, and if we notice, greetings to greeting was actually called twice, so which is what we have here, and it's indicated that okay, this was logged to the console twice. So that's basically the basic step of function, and you've actually must have used function before if this is now your first time of making use of JavaScript, and this is just basically the basics of everything. Now let's move on to function expression, and let's see how that is different from function declaration. So I'm going to comment this out, or let's just delete them. And then now what function expression does is, instead of making use of the function keyword right from the onset, it's going to actually create a function and then assign it to a variable. So you can make use of the keywords let, or you can even make use of the keyword var depending on you, or const. So I'm going to create a constant, and I'm going to name it instead of greetings, I'm going to name it hello world. So const hello world equals to function, then I do this. Okay, so basically I can just log to the console, hello there world, and then let's call the function down here. and then let's save and see what that gives us. Okay, we see that it actually works same way as your function declaration does, but there are just two major differences between function declaration and function expression. The first difference is function expression assigns the function to a variable directly, as we've seen here, and function expression is not hosted and does not behave when it comes to hosting the same way function declaration does. And let's see that in a moment. So right here, up here, I'm going to bring this back down. Okay, I'm going to cut this and paste it here. Okay, so we have hello world, which is for the function expression here, and then before that, let's call the function we declared, then greetings too. Okay, and then we're going to call this about 2 times. Then before finally calling this, there is a reason for this. I just want to quickly demonstrate something. Okay, now just a quick recap. The greeting function is log into the console hello world, greetings to hello world 2, and then for hello world is log into the console hello the world. So let's save that. All right, now number one, the first then stopped, and then there was an error which says lexical declaration hello world before initialize. That means, and the function expression is whenever you create a function using function declaration, no matter where it is in the code, whether it is at the bottom of your code, whenever you call it, it actually responds even if you call it before you declare it. But that doesn't work for function expression. That is because for function expression it is not hosted, but for function declaration, once the JavaScript engine reads down the file and okay, this function was declared using function declaration right here, and then it actually behaves as if it was created, it was declared at the beginning of the document. So that is just a way that you can understand that briefly, and you'll be able to picture that better. So that is it. But then when it comes to function expression, it's not the same. Now you might feel like, okay, for this reason function declaration is actually it's actually better, but a lot of developer will argue that okay, function expression is better because it is logical to actually create your function before you actually call them. This is going to make it easier when debugging your code and when reading through. But whichever method you want to know, just know, okay, put in mind the behavior of these two methods of defining function. Okay, so now let's move on, and let's move on to accepting parameters or arguments with function. So I'm going to clear this, and then we only need two function, and then for this I'm going to rename it to greetings. Okay, so let's say we want to accept a particular parameter. So let's say like I said earlier, now there are some functions that okay, the output is depends on the parameter or the value or the argument that they actually collect. So you might want to collect, let's say, a username, for example, or let's say a particular value from an input field on a form. So there can be tons of values you want to actually accept and work with. So how do you do this? It is actually real simple. So right here in our function declaration, so I'm going to put name, and then here I'm going to put name. So then I can use this function. Okay, now one thing you should note is whenever you put a name here, you put any parameter here, it automatically regards it as a variable that can be accessed in this function. Okay, and then I'm going to do something similar here. So let's log to the console, and then let's see what this is going to give us. So let's just call the function directly. So we say greetings. Now, before I actually passing any value, I actually want to see what this is going to give me without me passing any value. So, and then hello world. So let's call that, and let's see what that gives us. It gives us hello world undefined, hello there undefined. That's because we didn't actually pass in a value, and the function expects to work with a particular value. And since a variable was created but was not assigned any value, it will be assigned the undefined value. Okay, so what I can do is I can pass in maestro, and then right here, instead of maestro, let's say I can pass in Josh, and then let's see what that gives us. Okay, so that says hello there maestro. Okay, let's add a bit of space here. Hello there, hello world maestro, and hello there world Josh. So we can see if I should change this from maestro and I should change it to, let's say for example, I change it to Naruto. Now we can see that this actually changes and gives us Naruto. So the function, the value or the output of the function depends on the parameter that is actually passed in here. So while this is nice and good, but using this method can be cumbersome, especially when you are working with various variables, and there's actually a better way of doing that. This better way of doing that is called, now before I move back them, as much as you need or you want. From that I can put something such as, okay, age, and then also here I can put a comma and then age, and then right here I can put plus. Okay, my age is, or I am, let's say, then plus, then age, then plus, years old, and then let's do something similar to this. Copy this and then just paste it here. Okay, all right, there should be a plus here to concatenate. All right, so let's see, and then in here we can just put 20, and then in here I can put 15. All right, oh, there should be a comma, and then let's save that and let's see what that gives us. Okay, hello world Naruto, I am 20 years old. So what I can do is just add a bit of spacing here and here. Okay, yeah, hello world Naruto, I am 20 years old, and then hello that world, I'm 15 years old. This actually works fine. So but then now coming back to what I mentioned earlier about template strings, now there's a better way of actually putting these without, okay, you having to concatenate every single time, and which is actually what I prefer using. So I'm going to turn this into template string. Now this is going to end with our tilde sign and start with our tilde sign. That's the first step in template strings. Now this tilde sign, you can find it right below your escape button on your keyboard, and then I'm going to remove these quotes and the plus signs, so we don't need that actually. So let's do this. Now another thing is, how do we actually bring in our variable here? Okay, let's just log to the console, and then let's see. Now you see that that changes to hello world name, I am 8 years old. So to actually bring in the variable we accepted, so we are going to make use of our dollar symbol, then our curly braces open, then close, So that shows that this is a variable parameter that was accepted. Okay, then we do the same for the age. Then your curly braces open, then close, and then let's actually save that, and then let's save that, and we can see it actually works like it should. I am 20 years old. So in the right here you can then add spaces, for example, and then let's save. So we can see that here. So instead of actually making use of this, I recommend making use of this. So I'm just going to copy these, since our function basically does almost the same thing. So paste it here. Then instead of just want to show that, okay, this is our hello world function, so hello the world, and then let's save. Okay, we can see hello dear world, hello world narrator, I'm 20 years old, and then we can see this 15 years old, and then you can remove all of these spaces, and then all of these spaces. So this actually works and is better, the better way to actually do this. Now let's say, okay, as a user, what happens if we actually do something like this? Now we know we are supposed to pass in some particular parameters, but we didn't, and then we save. Now we see that as before, as we saw earlier, it's going to return undefined. Now what if we don't want that, but we want to assign a default variable to your function argument? So what we can do is, right here we can say name equals to Naruto, and then age equals to 20. Then here the name is going to be equal to Maestro, and then the age is going to be equal to, let's say, 12 years. Okay, so let's save that. Now you see, one thing is, without even accepting any actually accepting any argument, our function actually used the default value which was set here. So that's the values into your now let's say the name is not Naruto, but the age is the same, and let's save that. Now it's going to actually change the age, is going to make use of the default age that we have here. So this can be very useful in a lot of cases where you want to have default values and default parameters doing a particular thing before a custom value actually comes in. Okay, so I've created a particular function which is double me. What it basically does is it takes in any number you put in and then returns times it by 2, and then logs it to the we can double me, and then let's say 4. Okay, no, let's go with 5. If we should save that, and then right here in our console we're going to see all good and well. But what if you don't actually need that particular function to output it to the console, or to output it immediately onto maybe in an alert pop-up? You need the value to be stored. So you need the value to be stored. Then what do you do in that case? So this is where we have returning of values. So functions that don't automatically put out this particular put out their outputs directly onto the web page, but make use of it later on for maybe some advanced functionalities. So these values are usually returned and not automatically outputted to the console. So let's say, for example, we need something like, okay, want to double 10, and then automatically we have 20 here, but we don't want the 20 to actually be logged out to the console, and I'm going to give you an example of that. Okay, so let's say we're going to, the best way is to actually create a variable and to store it in. Now this variable, they are peculiar to this particular function. So let me give you a practical So let me give you a practical example of that. I'm going to create a variable let answer equals to number times 2. Now, okay, I'm going to just come down here and let's see if we can try to access the answer. Console.log. Now we're going to see that it's going to give us an error because number one, this particular variable was defined within the scope of this function. So that means outside of this function, the variable answer does not exist, and that's one important thing that you need to note. So instead of okay, let answer equals to this, we can just return answer. So that basically, as the word indicates, it returns the value. It just stores that particular value in memory. So if we come here and then we want to output this, there are various ways we can do this. We can just then output console.log. Okay, console.log the output of double me 10, and then let's save, and then we have our 20. So instead of console.log, I can put something like alert. So, and we can say the value right here, 20. So this basically means that the answer you get from a particular function, you can actually use it for various things. Okay, so let me give you a quick example. So let's say we're going to have a variable and we're going to store the value of the function in it. So we're going to say variable, let variable 1 equals to double me, then 2, and then let variable 2 equals to double me, okay, sorry about that, double me 3. Then we can have a particular function, or let's even say a conditional statement. We can say if is greater than variable 2, then we're going to have console.log variable 1 is greater as, okay, now instead of making use of the quote, I'm going to make use of template string. So I'm going to make use of my template string here. So what I'm going to actually do is this: variable 1 is greater than, okay, is greater than variable 2. Okay, let me come here and then I'm going to put out the value here. Var1 greater than, then okay, then if not, then we're going to have an else statement. Just going to copy this and then let's paste it here. Okay, variable 1 is lesser, okay, and then lesser, and then let's save that. Now we can see that we actually didn't automatically log to the console the value of this variable 1 or variable 2. So what we did is we stored them, the value of the function, we store it in a variable, and then we used an if statement, a conditional statement, saying that okay, if the value of this, that is 2 times 2, is greater than 2 times 3, then we'll say it's going to output this to the console, and then if not, it's going to output this. So we can see here that variable 1 is lesser than. So if I should, let's say, increase variable 1 to 5, it should give us this first this first string here. So it should give us that variable 1 is greater than instead of lesser than here. So I'm going to save it, and then we have variable 1 is greater than variable 2 as 10 is greater than 6. So this is one of the ways how returning values in functions can be tremendously helpful in writing your code. So another option, another example I have here, so let me comment that out, is I have a particular function here, and then for calculating of simple interest. So here's what we can do. I can just comment it out, and then automatically it logs to the console. So if we should put something like simple interest, and then let's say our principal is 100, and then our rate is 10, and then the time duration is 2. Okay, so let's save that and let's see what that gives us. Okay, we can see that our simple interest is 20, but instead of doing that, instead of logging to the console, we can just put return and then my SI value, and this my SI value just stands for my simple interest value, just for simplicity. And then once I save this, now we are not going to get any value right here, because it's just returning the value for this function. So what I can do is I can, if I want to bring it out, I can use my console.log and then save it. Okay, and then we have this. But another thing I can do is I can create a variable. For example, let maestro, we can say let maestro interest equals to. So this way we can have multiple users. For example, I can copy this, paste, copy this, paste, and then for different users, they can have different interests. So I can put this, okay, Josh, and then I can put this Tim. So and then we can console.log okay, then the value of, okay, maestro interest, then Josh interest, and then team interest, and that's all right and well. And then we have this, oh, we have the same value. Let's say for Josh we have 300, and then for the rate we have 50, and then for this we have 5, and then for the team we have, let's say, 500, and then for this we have 72, and then for this we have 9, and then let's save, and then we can see right here the value for everything. Okay, so I'm just going to log to comment this out, and also now let's look at what arrow functions are. Now arrow functions was introduced, I think, the ECMAScript 6, yeah, and it's very actually a very nice way of writing function. And the same, though at first when I began saying arrow function, I was a bit writing the function. If you are familiar with the basic way of writing, seem a bit strange to you, but it's actually real simple. And now what arrow function does is, as I said earlier, it helps simplify your function writing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and then we're going to have, instead of double me, we're going to have triple me, a function triple me. So we want to convert this from a regular function to an arrow function. So what basically arrow function firstly does is it gets rid of this particular function keyword. So and then once you have your braces right here, your bracket right here, then before the curly braces you can put equals and then your greater than sign. So this is basically how to write arrow function, and then instead of returning we can just console.log just to see if that works. .log, then answer. Okay, so what I can do now is triple me, and then let's put in 3. So we know, okay, let's change this from 2 to 3. We know, okay, 3 times 3 should give us 9. So let's save it. Does it work? Yeah, we can see the 9 right here. So basically arrow function is actually pretty much simple. Okay, so let's say we have, okay, let me comment that out, and then we're going to come back to this particular function we have here. This is our simple interest. I'm going to delete this, and then let's uncomment this. Now let's convert this to an arrow function, and let's see how that works. So remember the first step, get rid of the function keyword. Now after this second the closing brackets, put your equal sign and then your greater than symbol, and then it should basically do the same thing. So we can have something like, let's just console.log this, and then I'm going to bring my si value right in between. Okay, then let's put my simple interest. Okay, let's put 200 and then 42, and then let's say 2 or 5. That works, and then we save. Okay, we can see that it also works basically the same way. Now there are some basic things you need to know when using arrow functions. Now the first thing is, what if, okay, we don't have any parameter right here. Now if we don't have any parameter, let's refer to the function we first created earlier, so which is const greetings equals, then we can have something like this. Now in as much as you don't have any value, you have to put this in, and then we can have this equals, then greater sign, and then we can have something like console.log, and then let's put hello, and then right here we can then, okay, call the function greetings, and then let's save that. We can see right here it works just fine. Okay, now I think we have a particular double me function here, so I'm just going to cut it right from that line and then paste it right here. Then I'm going to uncomment it. So the first thing, okay, I want to show you is, now for the double me function we only have one parameter. Now when you want to convert that into arrow function, remember we delete our function keyword. Now, okay, we put this in, we put this in. Now this is still going to work. This is going to work fine. But when you have, okay, let me demonstrate that before. For double me, okay, then save. We should get, now we see it works fine, but you can also remove these brackets if you are only passing in one parameter. So it will just be const double me equals, then the parameter you are passing if there is just one parameter, and then we can have these and then the normal syntax and then save. We see we still get our value right here. So but one thing you should need to know, like these are particular greetings. Now whenever it's going to be an function not accepting any parameter, you need to have this enclosed, and then if you're going to have more than one parameter, and then you will also need to have your brackets. But when you have just one parameter, like in the case of this, then you don't need to enclose this in brackets. You can also enclose in the brackets, it's fine, but it will also work without it. Okay, another thing you might want to you might need to know is, whenever we have an arrow function like this, and okay, let's say for a single line of code, or let's say something really simple, it automatically returns the value. So let's say if I should remove this and then remove this away, now I can just basically bring this here and then remove the curly braces. Now this is still going to work, so let's save, and then we have this. So that means basically instead of using the return keyword and imputing it in a curly braces, you can just get rid of those away and your functions should still work. Just that simple. Okay, so let's see how we can actually use events in methods and functions rather together to actually create some unique output. So let's say we have an input field here, and which is exactly what I've just done. I have added an input text field and then just an h2 tag. So I'm going to use that to actually create we're going to create a function based on particular events, and we're going to see how this can work together in harmony, in synergy. So without further ado, let's see how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to get the input field, which I'm going to create a variable. Let's input equals to document dot query selector, and then what are we selecting? We want to select the input field, and then I'm going to let heading equals to document dot query selector, and then we're going to select our h2 tag. Okay, so we're going to put something like input dot add listener, and then what we're going to listen for the input event, and then use that here. Now when you want to, the second value is actually a function, so I can decide to put a function like this and then declare my function this way. It works, and I can decide to declare it outside of here and then just write the function name. Those also work, but then for simplicity, I'm just going to use my arrow function and then Viola. I'm done. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is log to the console. Then input. So we can actually get the value of a particular text field by using the property input.value. Okay, let's see if that actually works. So I'm going to save, and then right here in our code, let's try and type in something. Okay, we can see the results right here being inputted, so I can just highlight everything and put maestro, and we can see it right here. So our function works. So what I'm going to do is actually going to input what is typing here into the heading. So what I'm going to do is heading dot inner text equals, remember our template string, so we're going to use that here, and I'm going to put something such as this, and then say input dot value is working, and then let's see what that actually does. Okay, so we see, so whatever we type, it's automatically going to actually put it right here. So I can delete this, and then let's say it works. So I can say maestro is working, function
is working. So that's basically how you can accept input, and you can see that okay, we accepted input based on using a particular event to listen to the input, and then we using our function, the output we have each time is going to be different. So it can be, there are various function events you can use functions to you can listen for, and then use function to bring out a unique output using JavaScript, and it is actually really and very much fun to use. So let's continue and look at the last thing we have on our list. Okay, now we are the last part of this JavaScript lesson on JavaScript function and methods. So what exactly are JavaScript methods? They're JavaScript functions that are associated to a particular data type or a particular object. So they represent the action that can be performed on them. So the data type might be maybe a string, let's say it might be a number, but the method are the things that, okay, the functions that we can perform on them, they are basically just like normal functions, but unlike the normal function we've seen and we've worked with so far, they can only be called based on these particular data types or objects, and then they are called using the name of the object followed by a dot notation and then followed by brackets, and we're going to see that in a moment. But just know that methods are basically the same as JavaScript function, but they are kind of restricted into what they can be applied on. So JavaScript methods, so basically how you just call them is the object's name, then a dot notation, and then followed by the bracket, same way we've seen and we've worked with before. So let's see how that actually is and how it works. Okay, let's see how these methods actually work, and for the purpose of these particular lesson, and given the fact that I want it to be as beginner friendly as possible, we're just going to be looking at two inbuilt JavaScript methods, and then we're also going to look at how we can create our own methods. So because I want this to be as beginner friendly as possible, and if you would like a more advanced tutorial on this, you can stay tuned to this particular channel, and depending on when you're viewing this, who knows, I might have created more advanced topics and tutorials on this particular lesson. And if you would like one, you can put a comment down in the description below, and I would look forward to doing that as soon as possible. So let's say I create a variable. I'm going to create a variable. Okay, my name is equals to, okay, Maestro. Okay, now the my name, we're going to add a bit of I'll use some methods. So what we're going to do is, okay, before doing that, I'm going to say my name. Okay, that's my name dot to, okay, to lowercase, and then okay, also we're going to come here and my name to uppercase. Okay, now you notice that we don't have anything right in our console, and remember the rule. Okay, what it does is basically returns. So if we want to output that, we can just do something like console.log, and then okay, let's see if that works. And we can see right here to lowercase Maestro, and then if I should console.log this also, and then I put this to uppercase, and then let's save, and then we see it transform it to uppercase. So that basically, these methods, my name, this method, I mean to lowercase and to uppercase, can only work on strings. They basically work on strings, so it is related to just the data type, which is string, and which in this case it's my name, which I've created a variable and I've stored the string inside of it. So let's go and see, okay, how we can actually create our own methods. So right here I've actually created an object right here, my object, and okay, it has basically some properties and values. We have the name, which is AY, and then the age, which is 20, and then we have the method, which is this. So, and basically what it does is it creates a function. Remember our function declaration, and then it comes right to the console. My name is, and remember our template string and using of our variables right here. And in case you're wondering, this basically means when you use the this keyword, it basically refers to that object, and then that object dot name. So let me give you an example. When you say console.log, and we have something like, okay, my object dot, okay, name. Now this basically puts out this AY. So if I should change this to Maestro, now you see the result is going to be Maestro. So when you want to access the values inside of a particular object, you can just use your dot notation, which works well, or brackets notation, depending on each case, that also works well. But for now we're just going to focus on, okay, explaining what these keywords means. So without getting into deep, so when you are inside of the object, this keyword basically refers to that object you are inside. So that's basically what we did. So if I should do something like my object dot method 1, and then don't forget, since it's a function, we're going to use our brackets and then my column, and then we save that. You see we have right here to the console, my name is Maestro and I am 20 years. So if I should change the age to 50 years, and then we can have my name is Maestro and I'm 50 years old. So that's basically how methods work. So right here I can define another method in here. I can say method to anything. Okay, it can be, for example, greet, and then right there I'm going to put function, and then since it's not any parameter, we can just do this. Then console.log, and then right here we can have something like greetings to all aliens. I am. Then don't forget, we want to use our this keyword, then we just put in this dot name. Okay, so let's see if that works. So instead of, okay, let's just type in another the second method, which is method dot, instead of dot, okay, instead of dot method 1, since we want to access this particular method here, we're just going to use greetings, and then let's see if that works. Okay, greetings to all aliens, I am Maestro. So that's basically how JavaScript functions and methods work. So I'm going to upload these to share the course file for you. So these are basically all the things we've covered today, and then the you can check out the itinerary here. So the list of topics, we have the function declaration, expression, accepting parameters and arguments, returning values, arrow function, then accepting events, and then JavaScript method. So this is everything we've covered so far, and you can practice with them as needed.